Called to order the regular monthly meeting of the Ellsworth City Council, Monday, April 18, 2016, 7 p.m. All city councilors are present and accounted for. We welcome you tonight, and we would ask that you stand and join with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Item number 3 on our agenda tonight is the rules of order. Council meetings are conducted under Robert's Rules of Order, and in addition, rules that were adopted at the November 2015 organizational meeting. Item number 4, adoption of the Ellsworth City Council minutes from the following meeting, March 21st, 2016, regular meeting.
Move approval, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Item number 5, City Manager's Report. Manager Cole.
Sure, a few items for this evening. First, Card Brook cleanup is scheduled for Saturday, April 30th, from 9:30 a.m. to 12 o'clock noon, in celebration of Earth Day, and it's organized by the city and the Frenchman Bay Conservancy. They're looking for volunteers to help clean up the Card Brook area. If you're interested in helping out, call Jana Newman at the planning staff or Michelle Gagnon. Secondly, it's that time of year. Believe it or not, next month, Knowlton Park, the new Knowlton Park, will be opening on May 15th through October 15th. The restrooms and changing rooms will be available. Hours will be 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. at night, after which time the facilities will be secured. The splash pad will be open from Memorial Day to Labor Day weekend, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. So that's just around the corner. Planning Director Gagnon informs me that there's a sheet going around, and if you're planning to stay for item 18 on the agenda, which is the public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant, please sign up. It helps show to the state there is interest in this matter, and people were attending the meeting. And a couple other notes. The state's 1A reconstruction project that goes from the fork in the road up to the Union River Bridge did go out to bid on April 13th, so it has begun. Also, since our last meeting, we did receive word that Lane Construction won the bid to extend the Down East Sunrise Trail from Washington Junction along the railroad track into the city near Beals Avenue. So we're going to be, by the end of the summer, connected into that 90-mile system, which is great. So it's going to be a busy summer here in Ellsworth. Lots of construction going on, lots of things happening. And finally, I mentioned Jackson Labs sponsored a neighborhood meeting last week. I know several people on the council and the staff attended and talked about their plans for building out the former Lowe's building with intention of having mice in the house by January 1, 2018, some 20 months away. So that's a very positive thing for the city. So lots happening.
Great. Any questions of the manager? Any other comments? Thank you, Manager Cole. Item 6, committee reports. Reports on any committees that have met since our last regular meeting. Anyone like to share results of those meetings? Councillor Fortier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recreation Commission met earlier in the month. Normal business. A couple of announcements to add to the managers. The YMCA is going to have a DeMaya Field cleanup Saturday the 23rd. I didn't capture the times, but if you're interested in helping, you can contact the YMCA front desk. And thanks to Councilor Blanchette an evening last week. Councilor Moore yesterday, Bob Hessler and Jeff Wright. Knowlton Park ice rink is gone. It's rolled up. Highway Department, we thank them for lugging off the big stuff today. We didn't kill nearly as much grass as we thought we would, so it was the only success of the ice skating season is the grass survived and the rink didn't. That's it, sir.
Thank you.
And for those who haven't driven by this yet, the grass underneath that rink is very green. It looks like Ireland.
I told you the whole park should be a rink. Councillor Phillips.
Yeah, Mr. Moore and I attended the Harbor Commission meeting. There's another vendor that sells sweet food that's going to be there 2 or 3 days a week. And just the other news is that Proc Marine is late on arriving, but it's scheduled, should be there shortly, right, John?
Yeah,
I think those are the highlights.
that's about it. Short meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other committees? Seeing none, we'll move to item number 7. Citizens' comments. This is the opportunity for residents of Ellsworth to comment to the council on any issues that are on the agenda to be brought up before this meeting or other items of interest. We want you to come to the podium, state your name for the record, and we'll limit it to 3 minutes. And if you need a little more, we can allow a couple more minutes. Yeah, we won't be discussing or debating anything that's being presented, but we are here to listen. So any citizens that would like to come forward on citizen comments, feel free. Seeing none, we'll go to item number 8. Presentation of awards. Just to update your agenda tonight, the first item on there, Officer Tokus, for 30 years of service with the police department. We're going to delay this to a future date and refer this to the police chief. And the third item, presentation of firefighter of the year, also will be handled by the fire chief within the department. But we do have one recognition tonight, and that is Richard Roberts for being presented the YMCA Youth Award. And at this point, I'll defer to Chief Bickmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I wanted to take the opportunity to recognize Rick Roberts, who's here tonight with his wife, Laurie. Rick was awarded the James Russell Wiggins Youth Award for being a softball coach for approximately 17 years by the YMCA back on the 28th. Rick is a hard worker within the department, and we have other officers here tonight from the PD to recognize that. He represents the core values of the department, one of which is community service, and it's an honor to be here and recognize him with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to read for you this citation. The City of Ellsworth proudly presents the Certificate of Recognition to Rick Roberts in recognition of receiving the James Russell Wiggins Service to Youth Award by the Down East Family YMCA for your longtime commitment to the Ellsworth Girls Softball Program and as a volunteer on the YMCA Little League Board. Thanks to your dedication and commitment, these programs continue to grow and improve, and Ellsworth area youth have benefited greatly from your volunteerism and generosity. Presented this 18th day of April 2016, signed Robert Crosswade, City Council Chairman, and David Cole, City Manager. It was a real privilege and a thrill for us, Rick, to attend that annual meeting and to have one of our finest up there receiving this award. We're very proud of you, and we thank you for your I want to echo the Chief's remarks regarding the rest of the folks that are here from the Ellsworth PD. We appreciate you coming, and we appreciate your support. We thank you very much for your service.
I'm glad the certificate cleared up something, because he's no spring chicken. He couldn't have gotten the youth award. But
We worded
service
it
to
very
youth-
carefully.
yeah, Service to youth, I'd understand.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks,
Lori.
Rick.
Next is the consent agenda. We have 7 items tonight on the consent agenda. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests. If so, we will put that aside and come back to it. Otherwise, we're looking at item 9, which is council order number 041600, request of the city clerk for appointment of wardens and ward clerks for the 4 voting districts within the city of Ellsworth for the June 14, 2016 City of Ellsworth School Budget Validation Municipal Referendum Election. Item 10 is council order number 041601, request of the city clerk for approval on setting the polling places opening time as 8 a.m. for the June 14, 2016 City of Ellsworth School Budget Validation Municipal Referendum Election. Item 11, council order number 041602, request of the city clerk for appointment of Democratic election clerks with terms to expire as of April 30, 2018. And the clerk has that complete list available. Item number 12, council order number 041603, request of the city clerk for appointment of Republican election clerks, terms to expire as of April 30, 2018. Again, the complete list is available in the clerk's department. Item 13, council order number 041604, request of the city clerk for appointment of unenrolled election clerks with terms to expire as of April 30, 2018. Complete list available. Item number 14, council order number 041605, request of the deputy treasurer tax collector to release Adam and Catherine Morton's property, map 020, lot 021, through a quitclaim deed, that residency at 12 Hillside Drive. And item 15, council order number 041606, request of the city assessor for abatement of taxes assessed to Federal National Mortgage Association, customer number 2016, at map 31, lot 2 for FY 2015, $1,495.31, and FY 2014, $1,458.95, in the total amount of $2,954.26. Councilor Phillips.
Mr. Chairman, move as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Consent agenda passes. Now we move to new business. Item number 16, public hearing and action on the issuance of business licenses. And the first is Chummies LLC, doing business as Chummies, 59 Franklin Street, Unit 2B, renewal of a City Class B license, amusement, liquor, and victualler, and renewal of a State Class A lounge, Class 10 malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license. First off, city staff, any issues with this application? Public hearing is open. Anyone wishing to comment on this application may do so. Hearing no one, close the public hearing. Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of Chummies LLC.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next license is Charles B. and Ariella Zucker, doing business as Twilight Motel, 147 Bucksport Road, for renewal of a city lodging license. Staff, any issues here? No. Public hearing is open. Anyone wish to speak to this application? Any comments? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Next license, Ellsworth Moose Lodge, number 2698, 47 Foster Street. Renewal of a City Class B license, amusement, pool tables, liquor, and victualler, and renewal of a Club Class 5 malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license. Anyone here care? Well, we'll open the public hearing. Open the public hearing and ask any comments on this application. Hearing none. Public hearing is closed.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the moose request.
Second.
Move and second it. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. Next license, Asset Management, Inc., doing business as Riverside Cafe, 151 Main Street, for renewal of a City Class B license, victualler, liquor, and amusement, and renewal of a state restaurant, Class 1, 2, 3, and 4, malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license. Staff, any issues with this application? Open the public hearing. Anyone care to comment on this application? Hearing none. Public hearing is closed. Counsel?
Mr. Chairman, move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Next application, the Eagles Lodge, Inc., 278 High Street, for renewal of a city lodging license. Any issues with anything here, staff? No? We'll open the public hearing. Anyone have comment on this application? Seeing none, close the public hearing and council action.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of the Eagles Lodge.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. And the next license, Brian Langley, doing business as Union River Lobster Pot, 8 South Street, for renewal of a City Class C license, liquor and victualler, and renewal of a state restaurant, Class 1, 2, 3, 4, malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license. Any issues here, staff? Open the public hearing. Anyone care to comment on this application? Hearing none. Public hearing is closed. Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move approval for the request of Brian Langley for Union River Lobster Pot.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that's unanimous.
One question. When's it open? Now, well, someone was here yesterday.
June 11th? There you go.
And for the record, Mr. Chairman, each time you asked the question, any issue staff, they all shook their heads no. So the
We won't go
record
there.
captures that.
We won't go there. Item 17, Council Order Number 041607, request the Economic Development Director to approve a lease for the Union River Center for Innovation building. Development Director Sumter.
Like the sign.
Thank you. Good evening.
Evening.
As you know, I would like to request to approve the leasing of the property and facility located at 415 Water Street to the Ellsworth Business Development Corporation. The terms would include the following: 10-year lease for $1 per year, and then you all have your attached agreement from our legal counsel. So, and the reason being is it's very important that the Ellsworth Business Development Corporation have the right to be able to look at these clients or the tenants and really look at it, because the lease, when you will see the tenant lease, it is so much different than just renting a spot. The tenant has to not only be able to make financial arrangements for all of this, but they also have to do mentoring, they also have to do coaching with University of Maine, Maine Maritime, College of the Atlantic, and other CEOs in these fields. So it's not just, their lease is not just a direct, you're gonna pay $14 a square foot and that's it. It is a whole, complete holistic approach that they are beginning businesses and their startups, and they need to learn how to run a business as well as run their company and what their product is. We're not real worried about who we're looking at. We do have approximately 3 that we're looking at right now of the product they make, because a lot of us really don't understand the products. But we are concerned that they understand how a business can be sustainable. So it would be really good for us to be able to have an advisory group from that board and any others that they need from the science field or from the technology field or whatever field, to look at these tenants that want to come in and make sure they can fit there and they can abide by all of the other outside rules besides the financial. So I'm asking if EBDC could be the company that will lease this property. Any
So
questions?
this is not us leasing that property?
They're leasing it to EBDC.
to
so we
EBDC.
can lease to them their spots.
Right, okay,
Yep.
just so everybody's clear on
Yeah.
that. Okay. Counselor Fortier?
The exact reason we created the Development Corporation Board, so that the city wasn't in real estate.
That's right.
The only question I have is
Yep.
we budgeted from the Collier's money enough for a year.
Right.
Where do you foresee in the 2018 budget cycle, the expenses coming from the general fund or from TIF funds?
Well, it's not just from general fund or TIF fund. If need be, I'd be bringing it back and asking you to look at the TIF fund. But what I'm trying to do is the funding would be from the lease, the people that are leasing.
Okay.
But also MTI, like we're presenting to them next week. Hopefully that funding for what we're asking for is $127,000 over 3 years. That will help with that. Also, other fund-driven.
And the only reason, Mickey, is
Oh,
when
I'm
I
glad
read
you
that this
asked.
weekend is Section 5 is the landlord shall be responsible for all services and utilities, including heat. So is that going to be a line item in our budget underneath the Innovation Center? Or is this going to be in economic development? I'm just looking forward to that. And that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
a conversation we can have
That's
later. I
right.
just,
Okay. No,
Matt?
but that's a good question, and when we do, we have a charter for this organization too, not EBDC, but for Union River Center for Innovation. We have the charter, and we also have their lease, and all of that, we have a budget group of CEOs that are looking at the budget, so that will be answered, and hopefully, we can cover all that.
okay.
That's our goal.
Okay.
Well, I don't want to have to come back.
Well, no, and I realize that that's why we put a year's
Right.
operations into it, to let you
That's
get the
right.
snowball rolling, so.
That's right.
Manager?
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add that, as Councilor Fortier said, EBDC was set up to be the economic development arm of the city. And if you look at the board of directors for the EBDC and the partners involved, bankers and business people, the University of Maine and others there, they have the expertise to screen these folks and pick the winners. And lastly, I'd also mention that when we bought the former CHCS building, we got a very good deal on the building. It's structurally sound. We've made some modest improvements to the building, so, quite a bit with donations, correct, Mickey?
Yes.
And so it's not to say that we won't be back, but we're hoping that it can be sustainable in the near future.
Thank you.
And just for the public's sake, can we say with any certainty how many different groups might be occupying that building if we get to full capacity?
It all depends on how
Not to
much
hold you, but
square
just-
footage they need.
Mhm.
But I would say up to 5, because it's 40, well, they say it's 5,000 square feet, but you take away some of the common area. So it's about 4,200 square feet.
But there could be 20, 25 people
Oh, right.
easily working in that building for different organizations and businesses.
We're working very closely also with Amy Bowles from HCTC, which is really great to see how we can work together on internships.
Right.
Because a lot of these young companies that are coming, they want to mentor younger people also. So it's a really great complement for each other, and it will support our HCTC.
And just one last question, was this been totally vetted by the city attorney?
Yes.
Yeah.
What you see here is from our city
Right.
attorney, and he said that it was fine, and he didn't think, and I read through it, and we talked over, I didn't see any major issues at all.
Good.
I think the next one, the charter we're working on with him, we've done the draft of the charter and the lease
Right.
for the tenants. that'll have a lot more discussion, just so we're sure we're on the same page.
Right. Any other questions? Councilor Perkins?
So Mickey, the EBDC turns over all rents to the city. Is that,
It goes into a safe, yes, into an account for that.
so the money does not go to them, it comes,
Oh, it comes right to the,
Right.
to
I'm
the
just-
account.
wanted to say
Yeah.
that out loud.
Yeah.
And then, the liability insurance section, I just wanna understand, so the tenant maintains the liability insurance? So
They have to have their own.
EBDC has their own,
Yeah,
and they
then we have
to-
ours, yeah.
And they are responsible for paying that and,
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
doing all that. So
beyond-
that's
yes.
totally separate, and they're gonna do that out of their own
That's
budget.
right.
Um,
And
That's
most of
okay.
these companies already have it. They just have to move it to that facility.
okay. One other thing. So
Yeah.
how do we, as part of the EBDC's overview
Right.
of the applications, ensure that they are reviewing these, the things that are a part of, so making sure that they do have these, the insurance that is required of them, and so what kind of oversight do we make sure that they
Well,
are doing
the
or not doing?
the advisory committee, which won't be all of EBDC, but it'll have two CEOs from banks. It will also have somebody legal, from another legal position, and then two more, depending on what they do in their company. So they'll look at it, then it comes back to EBDC board, and they will question it all too. So we have that, and you have Chairman Crossway and David Cole on the committee, on the board, not the advisory committee, because we can't do
Yeah.
that. But I think that through all of that,
Yeah.
I think people will be able.
Yeah.
Manager?
Plus, city staff will be providing both economic development support and administrative support to the group.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? I know a lot of time's gone into this and a lot of careful planning, but
Well,
just
I
want to do it right.
Right, and we're trying to do it right, and we also want to thank all of you, because it wouldn't have happened without your guidance and your support financially.
June, correct, Nikki? June opening?
We want it to be June 1st. That's our
June-ish.
goal, but I want everything is correct before we open it, and make sure these companies are ready, and the building's ready for them.
We might be able to get Senator Langley there for that.
Well, I thought so. I think there'll be a lot of people there for that, because a lot of the funders, a lot of the supporters, Senator Langley, all of them, the representatives, they've all had some type of hand in this, and we all know that. And we really appreciate it.
Mm.
And I hope it complements what you're doing with the education. That's what we try to do.
Excellent. All right, we'll turn it back to the council for direction and decision.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor?
move to approve the request of the Economic Development Director and the EBDC Board to lease from the City of Ellsworth the land and facility at 415 Water Street for the Union River Center for Innovation, period beginning April 19, 2016 to April 19, 2026, and the amount of $1 per year, and authorize the city manager, Mr. Cole, to sign the agreement with EBDC on our behalf.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous vote. Very good. Good work. Thank you. That brings us to item number 18, public hearing and action on the proposed CDBG Housing Assistance Grant application to provide households with safe, warm, and dry homes and apartments. Planner Gagnon, welcome.
Thank you. So I'm seeking an approval or go-ahead from the council tonight to be able to apply for $500,000 to do housing assistance from the CDBG program. Applying for this money has been in my goals for the last probably 12, 13 years, and I was always kind of like, wow, this is just too big, this is just too big. It's an incredible amount of work, and we were working on several other CDBGs, so kind of time left. And then Mickey this year came in 2015, and I think she had been going up and down some neighborhoods, and she was like, oh my God, we've got to do something. So I saw a door open that Mickey was going to help me, so I just took that door and walked right through it. And Mickey and I, what we did in the beginning of the year, we went around the city and we surveyed an area that you see in the attachment you have, which is basically Main Street North going to Shore Road, Main Street South going to the Card Brook, and then on the other side of the river, which is the area up Bridge Hill and towards Grand Street to the north. And we did a windshield survey, meaning that you go around and you look at the houses and you look at the condition of the houses, because we wanted to have a grip on really what was going on and were we going to move forward with this. What we found out is about 800 structures, residential structures in that area, and we found out that about a quarter of those, just visually, had some significant issues. Either it was roof, things that were just peeling off, windows, either there was no windows or there were plastic on the windows, crumbling chimneys, foundation, missing steps, railing that either were not there or there, part of the homes which were pulling the rest of the structures. Most of the houses, if not all of them, are what we call 1900 houses. And going through the city record, I realized that when it says 1900 houses, really they don't know. It's old. So that kind of like enticed us to keep going, and we met with WHCA, Mark Green, who is here tonight, who is the CEO of Washington and Hancock Community Agency, and we kind of partnered. We said, hey, would you be interested in doing something with us, trying to do this project, because this is just too much for us to administer it. If we get that program, it's not my expertise to administer that program, but WHCA does this on a daily basis with other programs, money that they get from the state. So we partnered up, and we definitely, there's a need out there. Mark has a gentleman by the name of Craig Smith, and we've been working with Harry Jones, and Harry let us go into some of those homes to look at what we were looking inside, just not outside, and the story just keeps going. We held a meeting on, I think, April 30th. We had 53 people, 3 staff, mind you. Still, I'd like to say 53 people attending a public hearing. I think in the history of CDBG, I'd like to know how many times did they ever truly had a meeting attended by 53 low and moderate income people truly interested in doing something. We had great questions. I think it went extraordinarily well, and we are looking to move ahead with that program tonight. You have in the attachment just the draft guidelines. This is not what you are agreeing to tonight. It's just an idea, and we've met with you in the Finance Committee with this, just to have an idea of how this program would be ran, and also what we're going to write in the formal application. Then the third thing is this thing which would serve as your council motion tonight. Basically is a resolution that you are taking to move forward on this application.
All right. Going to open the public hearing. See if there are any comments from members of the public. Anyone that would like to comment or ask questions? Give more insight? The floor is open. Yes. Welcome.
Welcome. Hello, my name's Mark Green. I'm Executive Director at WHCA, Mr. Chairman, members of the City Council. I would just like to say briefly that we did work with Michelle and Mickey. I was very impressed with how professional they were and how diligent they were at going about their work. And then I'd also like to say I walked into here at the last meeting that was held, informational meeting, and I was super impressed with how many people were in here. And what a nice response the public had to this program. Up to that point, I wasn't sure where this was going, and after seeing that turnout, I was just terribly impressed. And we're very excited to help out and look forward to it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Sounds like a good collaboration. Yeah. Excellent. Anyone else?
I just wanted to let you all know, because when I did go into Michelle's office and said, we really need to look at this, because it was a little striking to me to see some of the neighborhoods. And this is a great way of helping the whole neighborhood. It's not just helping one little individual. What we're trying to do is make a big effect for these neighborhoods and pick up Ellsworth as a whole too. And Ellsworth is great, we have a lot to offer, but this will only enhance it, and it will enhance economic development. And that's, we're looking at that, and like Michelle keeps saying to me, it's, you know, to take care of the health, the well-being of the community and for individuals, kids, adults, all, you know, so we're trying to take care of all of that, and I really appreciate her guidance on this.
Can really be a quality of life issue.
Yes.
I mean, really,
Thank you.
it's quite a project. Yeah. We haven't had a community development block grant in this magnitude for some time, have we? I mean, it's been a long
Not
time.
for this purpose,
No, but
yeah.
for anything even close to
That's
this.
probably the wastewater treatment plant.
Mm,
Yeah.
The last ones with an S, many S's.
mm. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else care to comment? Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Judy Blood, and I'm going to call myself number 54 because I actually went to see Michelle last week because I wasn't able to attend the meeting. My husband and I recently moved to Ellsworth Falls. We bought our family home. My great-grandfather lived there, and we are slowly but surely breathing life back into that home. Our concern, of course, is that as we breathe life back into the home, we would like the whole neighborhood to rise up to that as well. And I have a love for Ellsworth Falls. I spent my childhood there with my grandparents, and I would love to see Ellsworth Falls become the vibrant community that it used to be. There are some nice things happening there, and we're proud to be a part of it. So I would certainly be in favor of this.
Wonderful. Thank you for your comments, and welcome back. Just let me see if there's any more else. Any other public comments? Anyone at all? Councilor Moore?
2 questions. Is this something that you anticipate running for longer than a year?
By the time you do start and it's all over, it's probably the 2-year period. You have a year contract, and likely we would have to ask for an extension for another year.
And is it pretty much exclusive of any other place in Ellsworth? I noticed you referenced the shaded area. So it's going to be locked into
Well,
that
so,
specifically?
we're looking at small lots on water and sewer mainly. There were people that called me and said, Michelle, I am just over the line. And I said, come to the public hearing and just put your name down and let us know you're interested. So that line, you know, you have to kind of set a line and focus on that to begin with. But if people are close by, they're on a small lot, it's in town, it's water and sewer, they probably would be considered.
So there's some
Yeah.
flexibility.
And I spoke to the state about that flexibility, and she was like completely okay with it.
Thank
Doesn't
you.
mean we would focus on probably who's inside first, but we have to apply common sense here, so.
Not dissimilar to the facade grant where you had to go for a second round.
Right,
To expend all the money.
Yeah.
So, good project.
yeah,
Sounds very exciting.
okay. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, Michelle, what is is there a fee that WHCA charges the city to run this program?
Yeah, there's an administration fee. The state allows, I believe it's 20% administration fee. Now, WHC, just to be clear for the record, actually to be transparent, WHC has not been hired, or nor would they be hired if we do get the grant just like that. There's going to have to be a public procurement process that people will have to bid. So I don't know if anybody else would be have the level of knowledge to apply. But first of all, it's going to be a public procurement process for the administrator. That's the first thing. The second thing is it is a very intensive paperwork program, and WHC would be. I mean, we'll see. We'll have to see what the people that respond to the proposal are proposing. The other thing I did not mention, I want to mention, is these monies will be matched with WHCA monies, will be matched with rural development monies, or use the loan depending on what we're doing. And that's beyond the answer. The answer is yes.
I'm sorry?
I said, that's beyond the answer, that was an add-on
Oh,
to the answer
yeah, yeah.
information, but.
So the 500,000, assuming a maximum fee, then the actual cash output would be 400?
Correct. Correct.
And this is not a loan?
This is a forgiven loan, so there's a recapture clause. It's a grant, but we call it a forgiven loan. There's a recapture clause. In general, there's differences that we are presenting, but in general, for every year that goes by, 10% of the amount would be forgiven. After 11 years, the monies would be completely forgiven.
If the property owner, the rules say that it has to be at least improvements that will last 10 years. If the property owner does not maintain that, let's say they say, oh, the heck with it, I'm not gonna paint it, and it goes to hell after 3 years, is there any kind of recapture of that money?
The idea is there would be a contract, a maintenance contract, and if they're not doing what's part of the contract and they're not maintaining the improvements, then the contract's been broken, and yes, the idea is we would be recapturing. The first idea is to work with them. Just want to say that.
Is there any kind of a soft mortgage?
Well, that's what's been proposed as an instrument for recapture, but there's several other instruments out there that we could consider. I think it'll be a case-by-case basis, depending who we're working with. That is not my field of expertise, I want to say that.
So as far as the private homes, this is for LMI folks. As far as apartment houses, there's no income minimum or maximum?
There is an income
For the
maximum.
tenants.
It's not on the property owner, it's on the
Mhm.
people that are living in the units. The
Right.
people living in the units will need to meet the income guidelines, and the occupancy by the low and moderate income household or household in the future has also to be maintained for a certain amount of time in the future.
So if the landlord, if the owner of the property sees that, hey, I can get free money from the feds, why put my money into it?
The landlord has to put a 20% cash match, as the single-family owner does not.
All right, and my last question, after it gives all the money guidelines and so on and so forth, then it says the city advisory committee reserves the right to waive any and all income figures and provisions.
It says any figures with the exception of the income figures, I believe.
That's federal law.
Meaning that, so
Hardship.
the state law allows for $40,000 per unit. But
Right.
we don't want to aim for $40,000 per unit. But we recognize that there may be some cases that someone may need more than $40,000 per unit, or may need to be outside the line that we've described and still would benefit of the money. So that's what it means.
Right.
It means that in certain cases, rare cases, the exception would not be the rule, that we could allow ourselves, the advisory committee, to deviate from the guidelines. The other thing I want to say is these guidelines are draft guidelines. I think and they have not been yet adopted by the city council. The guidelines that will be adopted by the city council is a package about this thick when it's all done with all the forms. I'll be back if I get it.
Okay. I'll be here.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and turn it back to the council. Councilor Phillips, you ready?
Chairman, do we need to read the entire thing? And may I
Nope.
just- I would like to move to approve the request per the attached document. Rather than read some
CDB.
minutes.
CDBG Housing Assistance.
It's the Housing Assistance Grant.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That
I think
is
somebody
unanimous.
forgot to put in
Unanimous.
the little paragraph that tells us what we're supposed to say.
Thank you, Mr. Blanchett.
Good job.
I can't believe it.
Appreciate it.
Are you saying we've had a discussion or two about this?
I said I've done my job well.
Thank you. Item number 19, public hearing and action on a proposed zoning amendment to the Ellsworth Code of Ordinances, Chapter 56, Unified Development Ordinance, Article 8, Section 817, Medical Marijuana Dispensary. And I'll defer to the planner on this to start with.
So in 2011, this became law in the state of Maine. And we are in the Washington Hancock District, one medical dispensary per district, and the city of Ellsworth was the location where that dispensary located. When they came to us in 2011, John DeLeo was chief. The council was somewhat similar, and I have to say that we were quite concerned. Not that we just didn't really know how this was going to be received by the members of the public in the city. And we kind of zoned them somewhere where we were scared. We zoned them out of the way somewhat. The director of the dispensary, Joe Sardi, called the city, and Mickey came to see me, and she said, "Can we consider putting them somewhere else?" And we worked on not a location, but finding a zoning district that would where they could also be allowed. We had a meeting of staff where I had proposed actually 2 other zoning districts, and staff was not comfortable with that. And we also had proposed other more amendments to the ordinance, and they were not comfortable with that. So I went back to basic, and what I'm proposing to you is adding the commercial district to allow them to operate in, as well as allowing them to operate in a building, a multi-tenant building. This was presented to the planning board the first Wednesday of April, whatever that was.
6.
Yeah. The notice that was done for both that meeting and your meeting, because we did a combined notice, was to every single property owner who we had the current address in the system, because sometimes those come back. So every single property owner in the commercial district were notified of this proposal. In addition to every single property owner that immediately abuts the commercial zone. The planning board made a positive recommendation to the council with one addition, to consider adding daycare to the list of 500-foot restriction. So what we have in our book is more stringent than the state regulation. We have a list of 500-foot limitation, not just to school, but a host of other uses, because again, we were just being very respectful and considerate. The planning board has asked that we add the daycare to that, which I have done. One last thing before I finish. I also have added in the package explanation about the licensing, because when they come to planning board, they come and they go. This use, regardless if it's 5,000 square feet or not, always, if they move, they always have to come back to planning board. But once they're there, we don't come back every year. So through the licensing, if you remember, licensing is very strict. And I gave you an example of the license, and I also explained the things that they have to meet to be relicensed every year. So if they're not a good neighbor or they're not a good business owner, they're probably going to be checked off as it's not going to work. And since 2011, every time they have come here, they have passed with flying colors. All the police chief or interim police chief that have been there since 2011 have said to me that the only thing they've ever had with them is false alarms, which we get from all the businesses. So I think that's all I have to say on that matter. Yep.
All right. Then I'm going to open the public hearing and invite anyone who would like to comment on this to do so, or if you have questions, comments, whatever. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Steve Joy. I actually own the building where they are now, and I guess my question, or my first question is, we got the history. I guess my question is what's warranting the change? I hear the history, I understand, so if I come in and ask, does that just mean that you change it? Or do we develop zoning? I also, some of you may remember, I was on the planning board for probably 8 years. We developed zoning for the logical development of Ellsworth, and so people make decisions based on zoning. I happen to have built them a building based on the zoning that was in effect. And so this is sort of spot zoning in reverse for me, because if you change this, no one else can go there in that same use because they are the only one that have that use. I can lease it to other people. There's no question. And they've been good tenants. This isn't about them. This is about the zoning change. And so I'm curious what has warranted that change. Is it just that they asked, or that there's a reason to? I believe that we have, we may have a new president. We will have a new president. We may have a new attorney general. There is obviously something on the ballot that we're going to deal with recreational marijuana. But the state will, I assume, come up with some rulemaking after that, and they'll say, yes, you can do this, or you can do this. And I'm curious just why the city wants to get way out in front of that. And so if you say, well, it's just Steve Joy is worried about his own interest, I am a little. There's no question. But I'm also curious about this whole process and how it's going to work. And the fact that I relied on some zoning at the time to make a business decision. If it goes, I would just tell you, should the recreational marijuana use pass, hey, no problem. And you decide that they can go anywhere, that means I can put someone doing that if I want. That's still a permitted use where I am. And it's one more use I have, which I don't have if they leave tomorrow. That is a use I don't have. Because they're the only people that can go anywhere in Ellsworth. Because they own I'm going to call it a monopoly. There are 8 of these licenses within the state of Maine. And they may decide to go to Machias, or they could go to the outskirts of Ellsworth. They can go other places that it's permitted in Ellsworth, and I'm okay with that. But the change is what has caught me off guard. And thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Floor is still open. Anyone else like to comment? This having gone through the planning board, Planner Gagnon, what's the answer to that question? Why the need?
I have a legitimate business that came to us, to the city of Ellsworth, that is halfway between a pharmacy and a liquor store, that wants to look at other possible sites. I didn't feel, and I don't know if that's the right, the need to hold them hostage to 2 zones when we literally, I'll say it honestly, we did spot zone them out of the way. I think that they have shown themselves to be a respectful, legitimate business. They've asked us to consider them to operate in other areas where we allow retail, and that's what I'm proposing for your consideration tonight. I just look at land use.
So if you wouldn't mind, just stay at the podium. So just so that we're clear, if they were to move or show that desire to move, would they have to come back to the planning board?
Correct.
And would a traffic study be required? And
Correct.
I don't see anything in here from he's still kind of new, but I don't see anything from our present police chief in here as far as our,
Correct. They're coming next month with the relicensing. I believe that the police chief, if he's still in the room, he has done a visit of the dispensary.
okay.
The earlier question you said, you asked if they would have to come back. Yes, for the traffic study, they would need, I cannot pull a traffic number out of the ITE number, the ITE book, which is the Institute of Transportation Engineers book. I cannot pull a parking number out of that book, so they're going to have to demonstrate, it's their burden to demonstrate really what they're producing and their need for parking, as well as meeting all other requirements.
Councilor Fortier?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And during that, there would also be a calculation for the trips already credited to the vacant building, correct? Because it stays with the property.
If they are going to go in an existing building, and that building is located in the impact fee area, trip for impact fee or trip for traffic study on the DOT?
For both, don't the trip for impact fee and the trip
Both
for
of them
traffic?
are built upon what's already existing. So you
Right.
have to do, the traffic study would have to trigger another 100, and the impact fee, whatever is not accounted for, will have to be paid in addition.
But if they're calculated trips, a less than was credited with Global Beverage Warehouse, they would not have to pay, correct? Because that facility comes with a certain amount of trips in the bank.
Correct,
Grandfather.
Yeah, grandfathered in, they're paid for once.
correct.
So if they come in 50 trips less than, or 50 trips more than,
50 trips more, they're paying. 50 trip less, it's not our problem.
right.
We're
and
keeping
that's
the
what I was
money.
trying to get out of you, is that,
Yes.
and it's been in the press, so we know where they're looking. You're being very politically correct.
I want to defer to Chief Bickmore. Do you want to have a word?
Yes, I had,
Hey, we gotta get you some TV time.
no, last week I went over with the fire captain for their annual inspection. And I believe the lady that runs the business told me there was approximately 70 to 80 patrons that come in there a day for business. They do their annual, they did their annual fire inspection, and I just wanted to let you know that for the record. And I had gone over there with Michelle the week before just to do a drive-by of the location.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Manager, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just going to point out that what's germane here is whether or not this should be an allowed use within the proposed zones. And all other rules, regulations are still applicable. They've got to come back and get approvals. That's really, it's a land use issue that we have before us here tonight, pure and simply. And does it make sense for for expanded areas into those zones? As recommended by the planning board.
All right. Councilor Blanchett?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Planner Gagne. Signage, if it were to move to that location, they would fall under the same ordinances as any other business in that area?
Correct.
So they could hire the inflatable balloons and the dancing characters out front. Yes, I understand that I'm reaching here, but they could have any kind of signage as long as it's within the ordinance on the front of that building or in the windows.
The windows, there's an additional clause that prohibits them to, it's in the, it prohibits to, what is it, showcasing any,
Right, it uses the word display.
correct.
It doesn't say anything about signage, though, and that's one of the bugaboos that I have, that, you know, half price this weekend. And such like that.
This is a medical dispensary. People
Yeah.
need to have a prescription. People are not just walking off the street and browsing in. It's a highly regulated area. I don't think that the patients that are there are attached to that dispensary. So I think that running they can only buy X amount every X amount of days. I'm not an expert in the matter. But I think running a special in the Ellsworth American on the window is not going to bring him any more patients or less patients.
Right.
So I don't think that, and he's demonstrating himself to be an honorable businessman. One other thing I want to say to this is that when this came along, the city was very concerned, and the committee that was working on this was dead set in trying to regulate the language on that sign, and that's against the amendment. But as we haven't regulated this use, and they haven't put any I'm not sure what the word is, but any things that we could find in general not acceptable.
No, the signage up there now, it's just straightforward and plain.
I think
But-
Shappy would regulate this highly in the least, let's put it this way, if it was me.
But twice, you know, in the last couple minutes, you said, I think. I would like something a little, you know, firmer than that to make this ordinance change because of the type of business it is. I tell you, if I see the word organics, it's like farmer's market. Hey, I'm there. You know, I'll go right to it. And then when I get to it, oh, no, this isn't exactly what I thought it was.
Well, again, as Manager Cole said, this is a land use issue.
Right.
I'm simply here to propose for your consideration, allowing them to operate in the commercial zone. Equally, as stringent, no more and no less than other businesses, and we are more stringent through the performance standard that we have imposed on them. That's all I can say.
So when you say in the commercial, city's commercial zone, anywhere in the commercial zone, anywhere in the city?
Absolutely. That's what zoning's about.
That was a question that had surfaced, and I know
Okay,
that
I'm
came up at
sorry.
the planning board too. Somebody else had a question. Councilor Moore?
I just wanted to make sure I understand this. When Mr. Cole made the comment about it not being a case of changing the zoning, it's the changing of the use of, or type of business that can go in that particular zone?
Correct.
Okay.
So commercial use are being
Allowed
being
use.
proposed to be allowed in the commercial zone.
Because until he mentioned that, I was wondering if Mr. Joy actually got an answer to his question, but now it turns out that it's whether or not a business can go into an existing zone. Is that right? Okay.
Councilor Fortier?
A question of our planning director. The title of your office is Planning Department. Let's look 10 months down the road, and this is now a full-blown medical, recreational marijuana facility.
Yep.
A lot more traffic. Are they going to come back and have to relicense or re-permit because of the increased traffic? And we all know that if it becomes, this person's a businessman. They're looking
Very much so.
12 to 48 months out, and he's looking at recreational marijuana, and he wants a high visibility, high traffic, front row seat. Is that what we want for the city of Ellsworth from the planning department?
So my intent, if this was to pass in November, like we've done on similar, on many other potentially controversial matter, I would ask for a moratorium of 6 months on any medical, on any recreational use to decide what we want to do.
You've got a busy plate. You've got a lot of stuff going. But I'd like to see if the rest of the council agrees, is that maybe we ought to be doing some foundation work over the next 6 months. Looking at, not priority, but looking at issues that we may be facing so we can get it done by the time the legislature and DHHS promulgates the rules to go with the people's referendum if it passes in November. I think we could be a leader in this.
I agree with Gary.
Manager?
Yeah, I was just going to mention, typically with this type of a referendum, similar to the gambling referendums, it's not uncommon, as former Representative Crosswhite knows, that not only do you have to promulgate rules, but sometimes you have to come back and do additional legislation to get it the way you want to. So I'm assuming if this does pass in the fall, there's statewide implications here, and they'll bring in law enforcement, all the different groups, and figure out how to administer it. But I would agree, Councilor, that it would be good for us to get ahead of it. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilor Perkins?
I remember when we were doing a workshop on the ordinance, there was quite a bit of discussion about the signage, and that was a sticking point that I remember really clearly. But I missed what you just said about it being against the amendment. Can you repeat what you were?
I'm not sure, but what happened is that, actually, the amendment to the sign ordinance was after 2011. But in 2011, when they came, one of the things the committee members were concerned about is getting some undesirable images or words on the sign. People were like, oh my, oh boy, what do we do here? And there was definitely an effort to see if we could regulate the language content and the images, and clearly you can't do that. That's against, I think, one of the amendments, the numerous amendments to the United States. So what I was saying is, without us doing that, they have definitely demonstrated their being respectful to what they had on the sign, simply to be known they were there. But they were, they're a destination at this point. Because you're not just going to go there with your daughter just to go visit. You know what I'm saying? It's not what you're doing on Saturday morning, for example.
Right, and presumably if they're in a commercial zone, they have a greater need to differentiate themselves from their neighbors and or indicate what exactly it is they have to offer inside their facility. Because they are, you've got to be able to pick them out from the crowd, whereas right now you don't go there unless you know what you're going there for. So I think that there is the potential for the signage to change, and we don't have much control over that.
Yeah.
Manager?
As I understand it, there are 8 of these in the state of Maine for prescription, as a prescription drug. These are destination people. It's not really, they have a certain area that they fulfill. So signage is not going to be about promotion. Signage is about direction, so that people know, who have gotten legally provided prescriptions, where to get their medicinal marijuana. So that I can't imagine any promotional in the sense of, because there's no reason to at this stage. What happens down the road if the amendment or the vote passes in the fall, that's a whole new game, and that'll have to be determined. But for this, the reason it makes sense to have this kind of activity in a commercial zone is for the convenience of the public who needs this for medicinal purposes. and the signage is about directional, in my mind, not promotional.
Right. Anyone else care to speak to this? Yes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Joseph Lasardi. I'm the executive director of Maine Organic Therapy, and I just want to say to your point on the signage. I mean, I've spent the last 6 years of my life trying to, fight stereotypes of what we do, and I'm certainly, we've made a conscious effort to be very respectful of the community. We're very grateful that we were accepted here, and I'm certainly not going to do anything to jeopardize what we've established. So, I mean, there'll be no blinking pot sign on the windows, I can assure you, ever. It'll be simple signage just like we have right now. And I came to Michelle for this simply for a business decision. I mean, we want to be treated like a pharmacy. I believe there's no difference between what we do, Walgreens, Rite Aid, Walmart. In fact, I think what we're doing is better. It's really saving lives, and so I just felt it was time. We've been good citizens for 5 years. I mean, we've tried to do things in the community to show it, and this is a decision for medical marijuana. Recreational marijuana it's going to be have to apply for new licenses. I have no guarantee I'll even be part of that. And in fact, I'm not even for it the way this bill is written. So I hope it fails. And at the time I went to Michelle, it had failed. So it wasn't, I'm not looking, obviously as a businessman, I'm looking to the future. And that's why I'd like to get out of the woods and be treated like any retail business in the community, that's all. So I just wanted to address your concerns about this.
Thank you.
And answer any questions
Any questions, Mr.
anyone may
Lasardi?
have.
I don't see any, but we thank you for being here tonight, sir. Anyone else?
I have
Counselor?
another question. So
Sure.
presumably, this code of ordinances is a medical marijuana dispensary code of ordinances. So if we change the zoning for the medical marijuana facility to commercial, and then something happens in November that allows retail of marijuana generally, we would have a different ordinance for that retail sale of marijuana, in which we could presumably have different zoning.
I can't
Then
say if
the-
we're gonna have a different ordinance, but I can tell you that I'm gonna propose immediately for the council to do a moratorium on the recreational use, so we can decide how to handle it. It's the same thing, I just don't wanna say it's gonna be I don't know if it's gonna be two different
Right,
ordinances.
but we have the ability to choose or determine what we do with the recreational use of marijuana, should that come forward to us separately than the way that we're treating medical marijuana.
Councilor Fortier?
I would suggest that if it passes and all the rules are taken care of, it's a legally traded commodity, and it'd be like trying to stop Hannaford from selling butter. It's a legally traded commodity. I think constitutionally, and I'm not a lawyer and I didn't play one on TV, but I don't think that the courts would look willingly on separating a legally traded commodity from other commodities. I don't, personally, I don't see that happening.
But Mr.
Council-
Ford, sorry.
Councilor
Yeah,
Phillips?
Mr. Chairman, because we're sitting here speculating what might happen. If you look at have done any reading on what's happened in, say, Colorado or California, I mean, that was legalized, and it's been quite a session out there for them to create their own laws and some guidelines. And I can't imagine that if this does happen to pass, that Senator Langley and Representative Lucchini are going to have their hands full creating laws to control it and keep an eye on it. It's going to be, I think,
Bigger than
a
us.
huge amount of debate, and between the morals of it and everything else, and with the federal government still against it, it's going to be a challenging thing. So I think what we're discussing tonight is this existing medical marijuana facility,
right.
and that only. And anything that comes to us in the future, I think, is going to be determined from state law, and we'll have another chance to see where and if and why.
Correct. Correct. Any other comments? Councillor Beetham?
Gary, you mentioned a few minutes ago that if it passes, it's going to be a legally traded item. Well, medical marijuana is a legally traded drug. It should have all the respect that a Walgreens or anybody else would have. We were very cautious when we passed this in 2011. We were very worried about some of the things that might go on around it. We were worried about safety. We were worried about what it might put on our police department and other facilities. But they've turned out to be pretty much a perfect citizen. We've had no calls except for same thing we get everywhere, which is false alarms. So, I mean, I think, given your own words, we have to consider that, you know, maybe it is time for them to come out of the woods.
I don't disagree with you at all. Medical marijuana, though, is by prescription, so there are some controls, but I agree 100% with what you just said.
Any other comments? I will close the public hearing. Council action.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the zoning amendments to the Ellsworth Code of Ordinances, Chapter 56, Unified Development Ordinance, Article 8, Section 817, Medical Marijuana Dispensary, as presented and as shown in Attachment A.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? 6-1, Councillor Blanchett opposed.
Thank you very much.
Motion carries.
Sorry to Heidi for making her minutes while we still on.
Wait a second, was there two that opposed?
1.
Did you go up late?
Yes. Well, it was too fast.
Item number 20. Council order number 041608, requests the Deputy Treasurer Tax Collector to award bids for tax acquired property.
Good
Hi.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, you wish.
On March 18th, bids were opened for the sale of 58 timeshare units and 2 vacant lots, all of which were acquired for non-payment of taxes for real estate. The city received no bids for the timeshare units. The results of the vacant lot parcels are as follows. Jesse Durr was a high bidder on map 85-8 of $4,005.67. That's off the Boggy Brook Road. Patrick Jordan was a high bidder on map 109-16 with a high bid of $7,800. That lot is off the Happy Town Road. Certified payment of 10% of the bid amounts were received, and the bids are all more than the total of the outstanding taxes, interest, and costs associated. It is my recommendation to award the tax acquired properties to the highest bidders.
Counselor, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, move to approve Council Order 041608. Request of the Deputy Treasurer Tax Collector to accept the bids from the highest bidders as indicated above and to release said properties through quitclaim deeds.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Those abstaining?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I have a long-standing business relationship with one of the high bidders, so I will abstain.
That's understandable. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, both the high bidders.
Item number 21, council order number 041609, requests the city manager to approve the sale of property located at Graham Lake, map 117, lot 0200, Mariahville Road. Manager Cole.
Yes, as you are all aware, the so-called Graham Lake property has been on the market for some time. With guidance from the council, the finance committee, we lowered the asking price this past fall on the advice of our listing agent, and recently we had an interested party, and after some negotiation, we came to the sum of $140,000 for the 36-acre parcel. I believe that's a fair price, so does our listing agent. Just to put this in perspective for you, this property was actually tax acquired, not for any strategic purpose, so it's been surplus to the property's needs for some time. Matter of fact, it was tax acquired apparently in the late 70s. So this sale would put it back on the tax rolls and back into a productive use, and I would request council approval to enter into a sale of the property with Craig Fellis for the sum of $140,000. And answer any questions you might have. Purchase and sale agreements attached in your packet.
Councilor Phillips.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve council order 041609, the sale of city-owned property at 0 Mariahville Road, map 117, lot 20, to hereby authorize the city manager to execute a deed and all other documents necessary to effect the sale of said real estate located at 0 Mariahville Road to Craig Fellis pursuant to the terms of a purchase and sales agreement dated April 6, 2016, between the city of Ellsworth and Craig Fellis.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Manager Cole. Item number 22, Council Order 041610, discussion and action on available options for disposal of municipal solid waste after April 2018. I believe we have representatives from both Penobscot Energy Recovery Company and the Municipal Review Committee, Fiberite LLC, here tonight, and I'm going to grant each group up to 15 minutes to present whatever you would like to present to us. We have, as you know, heard a lot already, and we've had you back a number of times, each group. We've met with some of you individually, so if you have anything new, we're all ears. We want to hear, and give us your best shot, I guess. And if you don't use up your whole 15 minutes, we can take a few questions if anybody in the public gallery would like to put a question to you. Other than that, we'll keep moving right along. And so I'm going to ask a representative or representatives from PERC to get us started. So the podium is yours. Please introduce anytime you come to the podium. And for the record, we'll have your name, etc.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome.
My name is Bob Knutson, and I'm with USA Energy Group. We're the managing general partner of PERC. In addition to myself tonight, I brought a number of staff from the plant itself to answer any of the questions that you might have that are more specific. I think we've gone through the discussion, kind of the presentation before of how we're structured. I can go through some of that again. But if there are questions stemming from things you've read or questions you might have concerning how we've discussed we're going to operate, I do have staff here tonight that are smarter than me that can give you answers to some of these questions. So I brought them. Quickly, I think what we have tried to do starting several years ago is to embrace the hierarchy as the state of Maine has described it with the reduce, reuse, recycle, compost, incinerate, and landfill. The state requires all aspects of this to have a fully integrated, fully functioning waste management system. In looking at the prospect of extending the life of PERC past 2018, when our current contracts expire both for the waste side and for our power generation side, we looked at that and said that the state is moving in a direction to deal with a more holistic approach to its solid waste management program, which actually started almost 30 years ago. A number of the people here may remember when all this was originally passed. And we're seeing more things added to that purpose, if you will, as we move down the road. So as we looked at this, we said, there's a couple of things you can do. We're an incinerator. We can stand there and say, that's all we're going to do. We're going to make renewable energy out of trash. And just take a singular approach, if you would, to the task at hand. Rather than do that, we looked at and then advanced a bill within the legislature called 1483, which was really the codification of the hierarchy in the law, which, interestingly, was not done 30 years ago when the original statutes were passed at the state level. So the hierarchy was never embraced as law, never given to the DEP as a methodology for licensing and relicensing and determining what facilities are essential to the state to embrace the idea of a fully integrated program so that you don't get too much of one thing and not enough of another. So by bringing forward the hierarchy into law, we gave them those tools that they could then start managing the program, the integrated program within the state, and yet give and allow for the communities to self-determine exactly what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. So with that, and that's where it started in this approach, and what we also said is that if we're going to truly be an all-inclusive type of an organization, we need to then bring with us other organizations within the state that deal with reduce, the reuse, the recycle, the composting, incineration, obviously we have that, and then the landfill. So as part of that, we ended up dealing with a number of different companies, and to do that, so that we teamed up with Casella, who is also we're a customer of theirs and they're a customer of ours, but they're active in the state in everything from collection all the way through recycling to generation of electricity with landfill gas, and of course they operate the Juniper Ridge landfill and other landfills in the surrounding states. We also went with a company called Waste Zero, which is a national leader in pay-as-you-throw programs from the standpoint of how do you encourage or change human behavior to reduce the amount of trash coming to us. And I know it seems a little bit like man bites dog because I'm advocating that you don't bring trash to me, which is what I need to operate my facility. But again, you can get in front of this train and get run over. Or you can figure out how to change your business plan, your model, to embrace the change that is sweeping over the state. 30 years ago, they led the nation in putting together various pieces of legislation to build new facilities. And the state is again pushing it in that direction with organics and things like that. Speaking of organics, we also teamed with a company called Exeter, out of Exeter, Maine, that is a fifth-generation dairy farm, and it's the second largest dairy farm in the state. They have this problem they discovered, which is 2,000 head of cattle leave a lot behind. And so they developed a program on their own property to take the animal manure, the animal waste, and then use that in an anaerobic digester and produce gas from which they then drive a reciprocating engine and generate electricity for the facility and also to put in the marketplace. So they are organics. Organics is probably an item where, recycling was 15 years ago. It's one of those things you say, gee, it's a nice idea, but it's never going to catch on. But organics, it represents such a large part of your waste stream, it begs to be dealt with. And so, again, we said if we're going to deal with all aspects, we've got to have that. So we brought Exeter on board. They have been a tremendous benefit to the entire organization. So through adding these various companies into our team, we also teamed up with and got the endorsement of the Natural Resource Council of Maine. We use them for education. We've asked them to help us educate the communities as to what's available to them in the way of programs, whether it's recycling or reduce, so that the communities can actually self-determine what they want to do with their waste program. So by pulling all this together and then looking at the fact that PERC is a fully functioning, fully licensed steel and concrete in the ground, we process your trash right now, even though that's right, you guys were refusing it, weren't you? Yeah, you were. And we'll do that for the next 2 years under contract. And we will continue to do that. The plant will continue to operate. There's nothing magical that happens in 2018 that it vaporizes. We fully intend to keep operating. It'll be fully paid for. It's fully maintained, well maintained. The staff here tonight is fully committed to seeing this unit move long past the 2018. We had a study done by HDR Engineering, which is a national engineering firm that specializes as an owner's engineer, that says our plant's good to operate for another 20 years, as we currently have maintained it. We have had some questions as to the fact that since we're going to operate differently, we're not going to be stuffing 320,000 tons of trash through it every year. We're going to cut down on the total number of tons. There was some question as to whether or not the report applies. HDR has come back and they are going to issue a supplemental report. It's called the TEC memo that basically describes the way we're operating. It's important to understand that we are changing our business model to embrace the changes that we see in the state. We will be looking for less trash through that. Right now we put as much trash through it as we can because we have a very lucrative above-market contract, which makes a lot of money for the communities, all of our owners, including the 87 communities that have equity in us, equity charter communities, as well as the fact that we return money to Amerimaine, the utility. So we are continuing to operate the plant. We've got a new business model. We will use the tonnage that we have, the reduced tonnage that we have, to pursue the peak hours of the day, which is the high-priced energy in the day. We will bring the units down, and we will do our processing at night, and we'll do our maintenance at night. So we're completely changing the way we operate. Staff's bought into it. They're fully supportive of this. We look at the opportunity to deal with the commercial haulers as well as the municipals. We've got a number of different contracts in place on the commercial side that give us great flexibility to assure that we have tonnage. And we are moving forward and have, we've talked to many of the communities. Some have voted, some have not. We look at a lot of the communities in the future that will be voting in the next several months. So we're encouraged by what we see, and we are open for business. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say we want your business. And our contracts are out there, and I think it's a fairly straightforward fee-for-service type of a program. With that said, I'd love to open it up to questions that you may have. And like I said, I've got staff here tonight. So if you ask me something I don't know, which probably there's a lot of things I don't know, I'll bring up the other staff and they can give you more specific answers.
Thank you, Bob.
Mr. Chairman.
Questions, Council? Councilor Beath.
You talked about running peak on peak electrical demands. My memory serves me correct. That's early in the morning and fairly like 6 o'clock at night. You're going to try to run a full day, or is it just going to go up for the peak, come back down, and then go back up for the other peak?
The plan right now would be, and you're right, peak hours are about 16 hours a day. Varies with the season. Starts about 6 in the morning, runs to about 9, 10 o'clock at night. Again, some are longer, winter shorter. And what we want to do is we're not going to chase the hourly market. Now, if I had a gas turbine, I'd do that. Okay, but I don't. I have a facility that we're benefited by bringing it up to full load. We'll operate at full load during the peak hours, and we'll just sell it into the market. And during the peak hours, you usually see about a 25% increase in the pricing. All right. And then what we'll do is we'll run that, and then we'll bring the units down. We'll continue to operate because we self-generate. We'll continue to operate on one unit that we'll then use to run our process equipment. We'll do all our processing at night. The reason we do that is because the energy at night is not worth as much, so we'll do our work at night, and then we'll sell it during the day when it's at its peak. I use that word a lot, sorry about it, but it's maximum value. So that's the way we anticipate. We'll also do our maintenance at night, and we'll do it on the weekends, and we'll do all of our administrative things that we need to get ready for the next day. Next day, same thing. We'll bring the units up, and we'll bring them to full load, run for 16 hours, bring them back down. Now, overnight, we'll run on one boiler. We have 2 boilers, so we can switch them back and forth. We'll run on one at about 70% load, and then the other one we'll bottle up and keep it hot functional overnight. Eliminate the thermal stresses, bring her back up in the morning, away we go. And we'll do that Monday through Friday. Weekends are off-peak, and so we'll bottle up over the weekend and manage it that way. So I'm putting out too much hot air. So, other questions?
Anything else? You've got 3 minutes if you have anybody else that wants to pitch in here.
I've got a lot of staff. I think between what we've said in the past and clarification here, I hope we've explained ourselves amply before. But if you do have any other questions, more than happy to answer them or get the staff together with you that you necessary to answer those questions. I think we've got a good program here. Our numbers are out there. Our budgets are out there. And I think we're pretty transparent on everything we've done. So if there's anything you have a question on as to what we're doing, please ask us. We like to give the answers. We have them. Thank you.
We definitely will be in touch if we need a little more information or clarification.
Be glad to do it.
Still in the process of trying to decide where we're going here.
I
so.
can understand that.
Yep. Yep. Appreciate you being here and bringing the team with you. All right, someone from MRC, I guess it's time for you to be up. Mr. Lounder?
Thank you, Mr.
Welcome.
Mayor. City Council members, City Manager Cole, good evening. My name's Greg Lounder. I'm the Executive Director of the Municipal Review Committee, a position I've held for 21 years. We have a two-part and a set of opening remarks, and fortunately, I'm the short part of the program. So we want to just give a brief introduction. I want to introduce the one additional person I have with me here this evening. Just real quickly, MRC, for your sake, those at home. It's an organization that was formed back in 1991, a short time after the PERT facility commenced operations in 1988. They ran into early trouble. There was an initial tip fee of $10 a ton that was promised for 30 years. That didn't work out so well. The communities went through a painful restructuring, had to accept tip fees much greater than that, up around $40 a ton in order to sustain operations. And so those hard lessons learned by the municipalities in the beginning of our existing project was it was critical that the municipalities form a permanent monitoring function over the private entity to ensure that the public interest would be protected. So that's what MRC is. It was formed in '91. It's looked after your interest in the PERT facility ever since. We've worked extremely well with PERC all these years. We've enjoyed a very productive relationship. It's been economically successful. In our preparations for the post-2018 period, we recognized several years ago that it may well be that the post-2018 period would be particularly economically challenging for PERC in light of the expiration of the highly lucrative power purchase agreement. So we worked very diligently with PERC's owners. The strong preference of our elected 9-member board of directors was to continue with a facility that we know and have enjoyed stability with for many, many years. But as we concluded the hard analytical analysis necessary to make the best choices about post-2018, it was very clear to us going back now 4 or 5 years, just simply, there's no economically viable way to do it. With that, we knew we had to change if we were going to continue our legacy of processing in this region. And so we began to take a hard examination of the alternative processing technologies that might be able to suit the needs of the municipalities. We've relied a great deal on MRC's technical advisor, Mr. George Aronson, who's with me here this evening. I'm going to ask him to come forward here in a moment. But I'll introduce him just by informing that as the municipalities going all the way back to 1989, when we had, the most difficult times in all these years, the municipalities at the time, they weren't involved with the development of the project or the technical aspects of the project. So communities had to retain, a highly respected and capable technical expert to help them solve those problems all those years ago. And Mr. Aronson, who's with me tonight, has been the technical advisor to the MRC all these years, and he's done extremely well by us. With that, I'll introduce George. He's just going to speak briefly on the latest and greatest associated with the project that we're developing, and then we'll move from there into questions. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Again, my name is George Aronson. I'm a principal of Commonwealth Resource Management Corporation, a technical consultant to the MRC since its formation in 1991, and in fact for 2 years before that. I just want to go back and talk a little bit, and I know that you've heard presentations before, so I'll keep mine brief and then focus on questions rather than rehash what you've heard already. As some of you know, in 2013, the MRC put out a request for expressions of interest. We received 15 responses from technology vendors and potential providers and went through a process to look at those through 15. From those, the Fiberite proposal was seen as quite advantageous on several grounds. It provided the highest potential for diversion from landfills of any of the proposals, and in fact, higher than any of the other options we looked at, which included options for source-separated management of organics and other options of that type. Due to certain technology advantages, their use of enzyme technology, and their successes demonstrated at their plant, which we've been to at Lawrenceville, Virginia. We went through a negotiation process, which culminated in 2015, February, in signing a development agreement with Fiberite. We negotiated contracts, which went out to the communities in draft in October 2015, went through numerous reviews, independent council reviews, which were funded by the MRC. We incorporated comments and issued the draft package in January of 2016. In terms of the schedule, we are still in accordance with the schedule which we had set out for development of the facility to be online in 2018. We have one of those important parts is a financing schedule for the facility later in 2016. We've seen a number of companies putting together, and we're starting to see the structure of the guarantees that will be offered behind the financing. Some of those are not yet public details because we are dealing with arrangements that are not yet filed, but that will be released when they are final. We are comfortable that what we're seeing is a structure that offers financial guarantees and financing provided by the private sector so that the municipalities do not need to engage in any financing on their side. We're confident, and maybe I'll just say this and defer to questions since you've heard the material before, that the MRC proposal provides the most diversion from landfill, the least environmental impact at the lowest affordable cost, and the most long-term vision for managing solid waste of any of the options before the council and facing the region. That's why the MRC has gotten to this point with the Fiberite technology, and that's why we're recommending it to the municipalities. And with that, we're happy to take questions on individual matters.
Thank you, Mr. Aronson. Council, questions? Councilor Blanchett.
I have one question. Three, 4 days ago, there was an article in the paper. I want to say Hamden Planning Board, may have been the Hamden Town Board, where permission has not, you don't have final permission to build yet, is that correct?
I think that's a question for Greg.
Question being timing of local approval?
Yes. And do you have it yet?
No, we appeared before the Hamden Planning Board for the first time last Wednesday. And we're scheduled to appear a second time around the middle of May.
And so, just for the sake of conversation, let's jump ahead, and Hamden either says no, or they change it significantly. Then what?
Yeah, that sort of, we call it regulatory risk. There's regulatory risk associated with any project that gets developed. We certainly have the highest respect for the local review process in Hamden. Clearly, a great deal of thought on our part went into the selection of the site. Considerations included conformity with the community's vision as articulated in its comprehensive plan. Additionally, we conducted a careful review of our project's site design against applicable local regulatory requirements, and we made a judgment prior to submitting the application that we clearly feel that we have a strong case to make for local approval. That said, local processes are not always as predictable as we would like, and we will respectfully work with the town of Hamden and await a decision.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. Sure, would you please come to the podium and give us your name so we know who you represent, or?
My name is Jay Dresser, and I'm a resident of Bangor. And I spent my childhood in Hancock County, Dedham actually. And I have shared with the city manager a 9-page concept for a pre-sort collection, curbside pre-sort collection, processing, and distribution of materials, post-consumer materials. And my intent is to create a business plan and propose it to the city council before the June 30th deadline. And I'm asking for the council's consideration to consider that before moving forward. The proposal includes a Bangor and regional drop-off collection facility, potentially 4 lanes in Bangor with stalls for pre-sort, with attendants to either weigh the recyclables or by volume, and offer a credit to the recycler for pre-sorting. And I recognize there's a need for a regional collection facility also. In the Old Town Orono, Waterville, Ellsworth, Dover, Foxcroft areas. And in my business plan, I will articulate those ideas. So with that, I just open up to questions. And I hope you will consider my proposal.
Thank you. Council, any questions or comments? For any of the- Go ahead, Counselor.
For Mr. Dresser, yes, we have, and I talked to you on the phone, we have received that 9-page plan, and I've got it right in front of me on this. And I question the likelihood that the MRC, which has had 66,000 tons committed so far,
About 75, about halfway.
about 70, how you ever are going to expect to get the $24 million out of their escrow to make this project work. That's my biggest issue, is capital on the ground now, when we're between a rock and a hard place, and so that's, it torpedoes your proposal on day one because of the lack of the escrow. And that concerns me. But it's an interesting presentation on this.
I haven't fully thought this out yet, but I believe that the collection facilities, the drop-off and the curbside, could potentially augment the 5 or 8 proposal and the park proposals. Because I feel that there's a need for a cleaner quality product. Right now, Fiber Right, I believe, is proposing commingling, single sorting their collection. And I know PERC does. And those are valuable materials. And I believe we need to pre-sort them and treat them as valuable materials before disposing of them. So.
And the Ellsworth system does that.
Yes,
We
I understand.
recycle, we just need to get the curbside component. But I agree with you that they are valuable commodities, less than they were 8 years ago, but.
Yeah, but that's cyclical.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. MRC, I would say you have 5 or 6 more minutes if you need to add anything, or if there are any more questions from the council table. Councilor Moore?
I do have a concern, and there is a time constraint, and I think we're under a little bit of pressure to be making a decision in the near future. You mentioned risk earlier. That I think we also face risk. If there's a delay, or if something doesn't happen, and we've committed to you, we're left holding.
Yeah, delay in the startup, schedule is
Bridge
to
fees.
start up
Right, that
in
costs us
April
a lot of
1.
money, and I'm not really crazy about that.
Yeah, well, I can certainly appreciate that concern, and what we've done with the larger group is we've reserved against that risk and so forth, but, so your situation is sort of different, twofold, that, you don't have access to that reserve to hedge that, and geographically, you're some distance from the ultimate disposal facility, and in fact, that concern was raised at the staff level recently. And we're certainly committed to looking at some sort of approach and working together to see what we can do to address that concern the best we can.
fair enough. Counselor Porter?
Follow-up. And this, I don't expect an answer tonight, so don't jump. So would it be possible, if we chose to go with the MRC and Fiberite, that if there was a 9-month bridge from April 1, 18 to opening day, would we be stuck with sending you our municipal solid waste, or since we're not a member yet, would that be delayed until you're ready to take it, so we could find a less expensive than going down south? If we could get into Juniper Ridge.
Yeah,
Because
well,
we can
access-
talk to them now. Your members
Right.
can't. We
Right.
can.
Yeah, again, you know, you're uniquely situated in some respects, and we understand that, have a willingness to work with it. I certainly appreciate, you know, just for geography's sake, you know, your interest in looking at alternatives, you know, on an interim or short-term basis, and, you know, we'll take that into consideration, and we look forward to working things through with you.
Counselor Beetham? Thank you, Counselor
In
Porter.
your original timeline, the Hamden, okay, where did that fall in your original timeline? When were you planning on having that approval?
The local permit approval?
Yeah.
We timed it for the period that we're in. We initiated the state regulatory process a lot sooner. I mean, that goes all the way back to last June, because state-level regulatory processes tend to be more lengthy from a time frame standpoint. So we gave the state a head start, and we've lined up, you know, to commence with the local development review process on the schedule that we originally had laid out. So we feel, you know, while I certainly appreciate concerns raised along that line, you know, we're comfortable with where we are in that time frame. And
Okay, but at what point in time does it put you behind your timeline schedule?
oh, if we got out into, you know, late summer, we, you know, would start to feel the pinch on the overall schedule at that point.
Okay, so you're not really in a pinch until you get, say, midsummer, then you start losing your timeline?
Then we have increased potential of losing the timeline. So, you know, we hope within the next 45 to 60 days, you know, we hope to be able to conclude the local process and state process well before that.
What's the estimated, can I call?
Yes.
What's the estimated time of construction of the plant itself?
I may turn to George.
It's about 12 months.
About 12 months?
Yeah. And then after that, there would be some testing and shakedown and commissioning process as well. I will say that during that time, there will be some need for small quantities of solid waste that would be accepted before tip fees are charged, and Ellsworth would be a candidate for that as well. So that may be one way in which we could mitigate the situation you mentioned.
Because as he said, because we're not bound by GAT or anything to go to PERC, is they're going to be begging for our municipal solid waste to test their plant.
Flexibility works in a number of ways.
We were talking at a meeting a little while ago that they may have to go out and almost purchase municipal solid waste to test the plant.
Very possible. Any other questions from council? Anything you want to say in closing, George, or?
I think you've heard our story, and just, you know, we're confident that what we're offering is the next generation of waste processing technology, highest diversion at the most affordable cost, and the best positioning for the future for the long term.
Thank you for being here. Council, action?
I'd say, Mr. Chairman, that I appreciate all three groups, including Ms. Dresser, for making the trip down here to once again give us all the information we can handle. I appreciate appreciate their willingness.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Fortier.
as previously discussed, I would make a motion to table this time certain until, what day did we pick?
We can do the next regular meeting.
Next regular meeting would work, given the news that
Okay.
that the application period has been extended to the end of
Okay.
June.
To the next available regular meeting,
Yep.
so we can absorb all this stuff again.
We have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor? That's right. See Counselor Beetham giving me the eye. There's no discussion on a tabling motion.
Move we adjourn.
Move to adjourn, second. All in favor? We're adjourned.